I don't think you guys can hear it until he picks up. That's how this software works.
JGT, what's going on,
What's
brother?
going on, bro? It's good to have you on the show, man.
Hey, it's good to be on the show. I'm sorry. I know you tried to get me on a couple different times, and I've been unavailable, and I really feel bad about it, Jay. And I'm going to kind of explain that a little bit here before we kind of get into everything else. But I want to start by giving a shout-out to at MikeCV22 for some of the personal things that he's been going through. I don't know, for those that are on the bunker that know. My hat's off to him and everything that him and his wife are going through. And then obviously J.S. Lowry having to go through the tough situation of a divorce. That's never easy, especially during these trying times right now. So my heart bleeds for people like that. But my situation is very similar to Mike. Unfortunately, me and my wife lost a child back in late June, and it's been extremely difficult for us. It's, Jay, I know you're a father, and obviously someone that very in tune with the counseling side of the house and the things that you go through from a mental standpoint when you grieve or when you lose things. But when you are so paralyzed and that there's nothing that you can do for the person that you love more than anything in this world, and to watch them go through that is extremely difficult and extremely painful. But it makes you appreciative of learning to put one foot in front of the other and to keep your head up and to understand that good things are coming, that, for those that are going through similar situations as the two individuals I mentioned and myself, that there is another day, that there is a tomorrow. And I just wanted to provide that message first before we got into the fun part of the conversation, and just say that, for anybody that's going through something like that, DM me if you need somebody to talk to. I've been to the dark side of the moon and back, and I promise you that there will be a sun tomorrow, that things will rise, and that you will be able to overcome. I just want to start out with that and say thank you to those that have reached out to me, that I really appreciate it. But now let's get into what people want to talk about, which I'm hoping is this football season. The football schedule is out. I'm excited with who we got. I'm excited the fact that we get to play Cornbread in Tennessee again, and I pray to God that Gus actually shows up this time and we don't have one of the worst games that we've ever played in our entire life. I hope Kevin Steele is ready for this game. And I'm appreciative that Stidham's not going to be playing quarterback and throw 3 interceptions to guys who are standing there, wide open.
Yeah.
But I heard some conversation about some of the receivers earlier and how basically Schwartz is misused. I've been told by somebody I trust extremely well that he's going to be used very similarly to how they use Sammy Watkins at Clemson. That is the plan and the design for him of how they're going to utilize him in the offense. And he's going to be basically a 3-tier receiver where they're going to use him in intermediate and deep routes. You're going to see him on some of the same swing patterns and screens and stuff from before, but they're really going to try to use him as a game breaker and get him more involved in various route schemes and things of that nature. Use him as a matchup nightmare, especially when people are going to be double teaming Seth on the other side. And I've heard that Eli has responded better more recently, that his knee is starting, that he's looking more like the player that he was before, and that he should be an ideal slot for us this year. But I think with them plus Shedrick Jackson, because Shed started to come on towards the end of the year, that our receiver core is going to be much improved, plus the freshmen. And from the freshman group, I've heard rave reviews about Elijah Canyon, who was probably the lowest ranked, I think, of all 4 that we took last year. But I've heard he's a freak, an absolute freak, running 4.5 at 6'4", down the sideline at 200 plus.
Who is this?
And it's just going to be Elijah Canyon, the kid out of South Florida, same high school as Sean Shivers.
Mm-hmm.
I think he is going to be an absolute star, Jay. As far as other team intel, I can tell you that Wesley Steiner has impressed, and he's probably, him and OC Brothers are pushing for the spot that came open. With, unfortunately, one of our senior linebackers having to take a red shirt this year, which, respect to him for making that decision for his family. I mean, it couldn't have been easy, and he is a class guy all the way. But from what I get, Travis and Kevin have been very pleased with what they've seen out of Steiner, his dedication, his
Great
ability
kid.
to pick up the extremely great kid. And I don't know if you know his backstory and all the things that he went through as a younger man, I say younger man, when I went through as kind of a kid, but as somebody that has really pushed himself out of a terrible situation and moved to the other side of it. I mean, he's just the kind of kid personally that you want to cheer for.
Yeah, he's one of those kids. You sit down, you talk to him, and he's a very put together young man. Like mentally, he knows who he is and what he's trying to do here. And you don't say that about a bunch of 18-year-olds, you know?
No, you really don't. And this is the kind of kid that's out there doing extra gases on his own. Nobody pushing. He's a kid that's in the weight room first thing in the morning before anybody else, before some of the seniors. I mean, he's really driven, and the coaching staff has liked what they've seen out of him and what he's been able to pick up in some of the virtual meetings that they had up until now. So they're expecting big things from him. O.C. Brothers has really refined his body and could be a contributor contingent on how quickly he picks things up. This will be his first real year of playing time. But I think O.C. had some of the best senior film that I saw of any kid down in South Florida 2 years back, and really was more of a receiver before converting to a linebacker his senior year. So athletically, he's got it. It's just what can he put it together mentally on the field. But it'll be a nice battle between him and West to see who that fourth linebacker is, because obviously you're already set with KJ, Owen, and then the little bundle of butcher knives from down there in South Georgia. I love Zacoby McClain because he's 210 and hits you like he's 240.
He fights, man. He fights.
I love it. I absolutely love it, Jay. But that's my scoop on the linebacker room. D-line wise, heard really good things about Conus as far as how he's been responding lately. Heard good things about Red. I think if he's healthy this year, this could be a breakout year for him. And then obviously, our one returning starter in Truesdale, and Big Cat. I've heard that Big Cat moving over to the defensive end may be a good move for him, and be able to maximize his speed on that side. Because from what I'm not a football coach, okay? I've studied a bunch of film. I have friends that are football coaches that have taught me some things. He just doesn't have that twitchiness that you need to be that disruptive buck pass rusher that we need. Now, Derek Hall and T.D. Moultrie both possess that. The problem with T.D. is he's run himself out of plays too many times and given up leverage on the outside, which drives Rodney insane. But if he can get that under control, I see his weight's up to 252, which should help him with leverage. And if he can get the mental part of the game, TD's got all the tools to be a successful buck pass rusher. He really does. He just hasn't put it together on game day. But Derek's special, and so if TD doesn't get it done, I fully expect Derek to be the star outside linebacker on this team. Let's see, what else have I gotten? Oh, offensive line-wise. Been very, very impressed from what I've heard about Brandon Council, and probably pencil him in at left guard, I would guess. And I know Cole Kubelik, I heard him just basically ream that kid on jocks one day.
He did, yeah.
He was completely unimpressed. But from what I got is that the kid's got all the tools, but that he plays off balanced a lot, and that that they really believe that our new LL coach can really kind of refine him. That's what Vic does better than anything is coach guys up. He's been impressive to me on the recruiting trail to this point, but he is a teacher, and he's make a chicken salad out of chicken shit kind of guy. And that they really see some tools with this kid that they can refine, but they kind of see him as a left guard. And then it'll be interesting to see what happens with Broham. You're kind of like a three-way battle there, where Broham could slot at right tackle or he could slot at right guard, contingent on what happens with Brendan Coffey. Does he become that right tackle that we need? And or does the kid, I'm trying to think of his name. He's a guard with a lot of high potential. He came in a couple of years back from over there in Columbus area, I think. I'm trying to think of his name.
Blanking on myself.
No,
I'm blanking on it myself. Jaleel Irvin?
But not Jaleel, because Jaleel's slotting the center for us right now. He swings outside the left guard some, but he's playing more center. But this kid's a year younger than Jaleel. Oh, God, what's his name? He is an absolute road grader. But you got a nice little three-way battle there between those guys. And then on the other side, you got Cam Stutz probably battling back behind Council, along with Ham. Or not Ham, excuse me, Tayshawn Manning.
Tayshawn Manning, yep.
And then at the left tackle spots, you got a nice three-way battle. I think it's Trox's if he's healthy. But once again, is he healthy? What can you get out of Killian Zaire? I think ultimately the coaching staff would love to redshirt that guy so that you could build some depth moving forward. And then you got Alec Jackson. And I just don't know how ready Alec is to contribute right now. I mean, this is only his second year playing offensive line. I know he played tight end in high school, but playing tight end in high school and playing left tackle in, the SEC is a hell of a lot different.
Absolutely.
So, I'm really interested to see how that battle takes shape. But like I said, I think it's Trox's job if he's healthy and ready to go. And to me, that's a solid offensive line. I really think that offensive line, to be honest, from a skill set standpoint, if Brahms can be the anchor that we need him to be, and can really help line guys up and get the snaps right, which was Caleb's issue last year, then we really stand a chance of being an improved offensive line. I truly believe that.
I don't know that we're going to see that this year, but you're a little higher on him than maybe I am. I don't know.
I am, but I'm an optimist by nature, Jay. I think you're more of a realist.
That's kind of what I do.
And the potential there, for the inexperience that we have, I can completely understand. We're going to a 10-game SEC schedule. There's no tune-up.
Nope.
You know what I mean? There's no Troy. There's no, Alcorn State. There's nobody to get in there and get that experience again. But the difference is that everybody's like that. And so, like you said, the shit shows that are Arkansas and Ole Miss and even Mississippi State trying to pick up Leach's offense that quickly with really no spring training to put it in, even though it's relatively simplistic, still the timing routes in that offense alone are going to be, they're just running them on air right now. It's going to be insane once you get live action. So I think the SEC in and of itself is just going to be a nightmare at the very beginning, especially contingent on how the actual schedule shakes out. I mean, I know we know who we're playing, but do we get an Ole Miss and a Mississippi State first to kind of work some kinks out against before you got to play Georgia? That's what you're hoping for.
That's what you're hoping for. You got to get it straightened out. I mean, yeah.
Right. I mean, everybody knows that the first 2 games of the season, typically speaking, are just, your worst 2 games from an execution standpoint.
Yeah.
And you really make that big jump by about week 3 when you started to work all the kinks out, and you're on time with things, because there's nothing worse than, a receiver that's 2 seconds too fast or too slow, or an offensive lineman that's pulled in the wrong direction, a running back that's hitting the wrong gap. And those are all things that happen week 1, week 2. But typically speaking, you're going to have a big opening game, either 1 or 2, but both teams are going to be bad. And then you're going to have a game where you're going to be able to iron some things out, which was the lane for us last year.
Yeah.
Don't have that.
Word.
Don't have that unless we get Arkansas week 1 and Ole Miss week 2. And I would love to run it down Lane Train's throat. I really would. Especially for half these people in the bunker that think Lane's some kind of savior. I think he's pretty much a joke, to be completely honest. I think he's a good football coach.
I got a lot of friends on the Ole Miss side, so I got to be nice.
I know you do, Jay. And look, I know Neil loves the guy. I do. I listen, to you guys on Greatest Pod in the South. I get it. But I just don't think that Lane is a transcendent type of coach that's going to take that program to another level. I honestly believe Hugh Freeze was that guy. And yes, he let the wheels run off the ship, no question. But I just felt like Hugh, from a motivational standpoint, from understanding the state of Mississippi, and understanding what it took to make that program a flagship program, really was the man for that. It was the man for that job. But the problem is the recruiting infractions, the thumb in his nose, the NCAA, everything that happened there just made that a perfect storm for things to go sideways. And obviously he's reinventing himself at Liberty. I think he went 6-6 or 7-5 this past year at a program that's an FBS independent. And I actually expect him to do relatively well there, and I think he'll get a second shot somewhere. I don't know that it'll be in the SEC, but I honestly believe Hugh Freeze is a damn good football coach.
Interesting. Okay. That means Liberty did a hell of a job to get him. Yeah.
Oh, I think they did. I mean, of course, and me and you both know that if Liberty doesn't get him, he's the offensive coordinator at Auburn last year.
Yes. He probably should have been anyway. I think he ended up going to Liberty because he couldn't get the offensive coordinator job at Auburn.
Well, I don't think that the alumni wanted to bite off on it for sure, because everybody was trying to fire Gus's ass last year. Nobody wanted you to be in the mix.
Yes.
And the SEC commissioner really wasn't even sold on it, to be honest.
Yes.
But I think
Gus wanted him. Gus wanted him.
No question.
Absolutely.
Gus wanted him, without a doubt, to come in. And it's the same way he pursued Chad this year, except Chad was much more amenable. It wasn't a hard sell to the SEC. The boosters, after a 9-3 year, were not trying to fire Gus, especially with the pellet that we would have to swallow to fire him.
Yeah.
And realistically, I think Chad will be here for the next 2 to 3 years because he really wants to reinvent himself and go to a top-tier program. I think
I
he
agree
realizes
completely.
the fault to take a job at Arkansas, which was a complete rebuild, and it was ill fit for the type of system that he wanted to run. They just didn't have the skill players that they needed. And Brett had done such a piss-poor job of recruiting. I mean, he recruited the same way he did at Wisconsin. Well, you don't have 4 years to build an offensive line at Arkansas the way you do at Wisconsin. You're not walking into a system that's already made for what you do. And Chad learned that the hard way, and he hired some inexperienced guys. I mean, his offensive coordinator in Arkansas is now the tight ends coach at UAB. His offensive line coach, Dustin Fry, I don't even think has a job. So, you know, I mean, and those guys were like grad assistants before he took them to SMU. And I'm not saying they're bad football coaches. I think they're good. But the lack of experience on that coaching staff, I think, is something that Chad learned. And that's why Big Nail was the pick, because he wanted somebody that understood the SEC, or somebody that understood how to evaluate lesser tier prospects and get the most out of them. Because if you look at some of the offensive line prospects that we took originally in this class, I mean, Jermaine Gooch is not highly rated, but the coaching staff thinks he's going to be a star, and so does everybody else. Because if you look at his offer list, Tennessee, Georgia, Alabama, I mean, he's got all the big offers. He just hasn't been viewed by rivals because, you know, they don't have the camps and everything that they need to evaluate.
Right.
Caleb Johnson, the same way, viewed as a 3-star. I think he's an all-SEC type starter. I mean, I think that Dick has done a fantastic job on evaluating some of these guys. And we've got some other lesser tier prospects that we're looking at, like a Rayvon Crum, who I know me and Jeff have different opinions on, but I think I got a chance, or a buddy got a chance to look at him at a practice up at Princeton, and he's dropped 30 pounds since last year. So he's down to around 320 or so, moving extremely well, and has the look of, you know, I mean, an SEC starter at some point in his career, and he's a lesser rated guy. We got a couple other guys over in Georgia that we're looking at. That Big's going to be the first big offer for him, and I guarantee they're going to blow up. It's going to be a DJ Williams type deal. But, you know, very much watching or listening to what Chad's doing. And Gus is kind of taking, I mean, I know people are going to grind their teeth when they say Gus is like helping anybody. But I think what Gus has done at Auburn is that he's been able to cultivate a staff of proven recruiters and guys in the SEC. I mean, the only people that you have that are truly kind of unproven are Auburn guys. And Travis Williams has turned himself into, I mean, he was an unproven guy that has stepped in and become a lights-out recruiter in the SEC.
Yeah, I know. And there were a lot of people in the bunker, J-Head, if you remember, who were not a fan.
No, not a fan at all. But Gus saw the ability for an Auburn alumni to come in, especially somebody that was as charismatic as Travis. And there's nobody that's a more effective recruiter than somebody that's from your school that bleeds the orange and blue, that can tell you not only what this university can do for you, they can show you what it did for them. They can show you how it got me to the NFL. I mean, how it helped me get a rap career, how it helped me get into coaching, and now I'm making six figures. I mean, they can show you with that Auburn degree and what being an Auburn Tiger can do for you, and that makes them extremely effective.
Yeah, hell yeah.
But if you look at the guys that are outside the Auburn brand, Larry Porter, stud, Wesley McGriff, stud, Big Nail's an excellent evaluator. I mean, Kevin Steele's as good as you're going to get. Rodney Garner, who is an Auburn man, but we sold him from Georgia. I mean, he has built a veteran staff of SEC guys that are extremely savvy, that are talented recruiters. And that's why we continuously recruit in the top 15, top 10, even when we're putting up 8 and 5 seasons, because you have guys that Gus has kind of built this staff around that have the ability to spin it when things go sideways. And that's what Chad didn't have on his staff. He didn't have that veteran presence. I mean, I think he had the chief, who couldn't recruit me or you to come play at Arkansas, and you know what I mean, and a handful of young guys.
Yeah, yeah.
So, I mean, I think he's just kind of taking him under his wing, showing him what you need to do to really manage an SEC program.
J-Head, you are, man, I've never met anybody that has so much information. God, I mean, it's just so thick. You know everything, man.
Well, I get lucky, Jay. I get extremely lucky. I promise you that.
You don't get lucky when you're 100% every single time, bro.
I don't know about 100%, but once again, I want to thank you for the time to let me come on. Let you thank you for the time to let me talk about my personal situation.
No, that's awesome.
No,
I mean,
and just
we love having you here. And listen, man, there have been so many thoughts and prayers put out for you in the last 20 minutes. Everybody we had no idea that you had been fighting through this, man. That's a tough situation to go through. I've never been through it, and it's just, I'm just hating
Well,
it for you,
it
man.
is, Jay. And it's extremely heartbreaking. And like I said, when you see the person that you love more than anything in this world, and there's nothing you can do to fix it,
Yeah.
there's nothing that you can do to make them feel whole. You know, as a man, that's, you know, you pride yourself on being able to fix things, to make things right. And there's nothing you can do for that but time and support and just trying to be there and be a better version of yourself each and every day and understand that God has a plan for each of us.
Yeah.
And, you know, I guess I heard something very powerful the other day, and it's, when God says no, can you be committed? Can you be committed beyond when you said that you originally understand and that you accept the fact that there are better things for you in this life, even when something bitter like this happens to you? And that's what I try to do, is try to understand and realize that there is a reason behind all of this, that maybe my testimony will be able to help somebody else when they face a similar situation and they understand that you have the ability to move beyond this, that this is not the end of your life, that things will get better, that one day at a time, one step at a time. So I can't thank you enough for giving me that opportunity, Jay, just to kind of share that story. And like I said, if there's anybody else that's going through this, slip me a DM. If you're struggling with anything, let me know, because I would love to binge you in and talk to you about my personal story and how, you know, how you can push through it. I promise.
Jay, you're the man, dude. The best call we've ever had here.
I appreciate you, JG. I really do. Thank you, man.
See you, bro.